Hello, welcome to another interview here at Strange Duke 2022. Today with us we have Peter Lyons. How are you today, Peter?
Hi, Renzo. I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
How was the conference so far?
It's been really interesting, really exciting. I love Strange Loop. This is my fourth time here.
Right.
So I think it's a great conference. I love how agnostic it is. And I think they do a great job of running it. The schedule, there's plenty of breaks. Nothing feels rushed. So I really like it.
Fantastic. Is there like a specific talk that you want to mention that you liked so far?
I really liked Felinne's talk on the Hedy programming language. And I've seen her talk at previous Strange Loops. So I thought it was really fascinating. She's a very engaging speaker. And I think the project teaching programming with a custom-built language is really, really interesting.
Fantastic. I'll have a look. I didn't follow that talk, but everyone listening can go to YouTube and find all the talks online.
Yep.
Hopefully very soon, actually when this podcast is going out, I guess. Can you tell us a little bit about your background in general?
Yeah, my career was in software development primarily. So I've been doing professional programming since about 2001, just at the tail end of the dot-com boom in the US here. And I did web development and back-end development, business applications. And at this point, I've got a breadth of experience from startups, small companies, big companies, gigantic companies. I've done independent consulting. So a diversity of things over the years.
Okay. So now you are maybe not really starting, but you are in a different business or kind of sort of different business called the Focus Retreat Center. What is it all about?
Yeah, so during the lockdown in the early days of the pandemic, I decided to shift my career and try to do a project where I could work together with my partner to find some meaningful work for her and for us to just be able to work closely together. And we ended up buying and renovating an old big brick school building in the northeast corner of New York State. And now we're running a retreat center for programmers and other people working on long-term intensive creative projects.
Was the renovation for the reason for creating the center?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the building had been abandoned for about more than 4 years, and the winters are very brutally cold in that part of the world. So it was an extensive renovation and remodeling to get the facility ready to go. But because of that, that's why we were able to afford it without external funding or venture capital or anything like that.
So what is the typical activity that you do with this retreat center? How people are using it?
So we create a cohort or a group of peers that are focused on the same type of thing. So that might be programming, or it might be drawing, or it might be writing a book or writing a screenplay. These kind of projects that take a long time and benefit from intensive periods. And then we get them all to come and kind of live together at the retreat center. It's a live-in facility, and you get a chance to focus on your work and be surrounded by peers that are working on the same thing. And Stella and I take care of you such that you can have a retreat. You can have a different lifestyle where you can pause all of your daily responsibilities.
Yeah.
So all of your cooking, all of the dishes is done for you. It's there for you to give the best part of yourself, the best part of your energy to your work, to your own fulfillment, and we take care of you. And a lot of people that come are adults that give care to children or their pets and their partners for most of their normal lives. They give a lot of care, and this is a time for them to be able to pause that and to receive some care and to take care of themselves so that they can flourish and really put their best selves into their creative projects.
Was that location that you can go on the website? We'll link the website on the show notes, and you can see the wonderful pictures that are there. It's a wonderful location, countryside location, right? Was that location specifically picked for some reason, related to the retreat?
Yes, so the retreat center is just at the edge of the largest public park in the United States. It's called the Adirondack State Park. It's 6 million acres. It's larger than several of the US states. And I spent a lot of time in the summer vacationing there with my family. And in fact, we're now at the fourth generation of my family on my mother's side who's vacationed in the summertime in the lakes within the Adirondack State Park. So I have a special fondness for it, especially in the summertime where the weather is much more mild. It's still hot enough that you can swim, but it's not oppressively hot. And there's lots of shade because it's a forest. And then it's all freshwater lakes. And I really like freshwater swimming and water skiing and that kind of thing. So I had a fondness for that location, and as I was vacationing there, I was always noticing how affordable things were. You could buy waterfront property for very cheap compared to the areas where I had been living, either New York City or near Boulder, Colorado. And so I had been daydreaming about like, oh, I want to build a summer camp up here basically for coders. So that's why we looked in that particular area. But the main problem for coders in the park is that it's not very well developed and there's not a lot of high-speed internet. So the building in the town that we eventually chose is right at the edge of the park, which means it has high-speed internet.
Yeah.
So we've got gigabit internet in the house, but you head south and you immediately cross into the park itself and you have access to all the hiking trails and lakes and forest. But we have a real town that it's in the countryside, but it's a real village. So there's pharmacies, there's grocery stores, there's supplies for whatever you need. We've got high-speed internet, there's cell phone coverage. So a lot of your basic amenities and needs are taken care of, but you have very good proximity to the wilderness in the park.
So yes, there's a focus inside the house and relax outside the house.
Yes.
That's the no distraction in the sense, the typical city-like distractions.
That's
that you
right.
have.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's a very interesting project. So do you have a couple of examples of projects that have been hosted so far in the property that were successful? Or?
Yeah, so this is our first season up and running this past summer. And I guess I'll highlight one of our residents was a Philadelphia-based artist and poet named Dane Saint. His day job is doing reporting and technical work for the Inquirer in Philadelphia, but he has an art and activism project called People of Soul. People of S-O-L, soul like sun.
Yeah.
And so he took time to recover from burnout. So he showed up, he was a little burned out from work. He took like the first whole week to catch up on sleep, to take care of himself, to do yoga, to lift weights, to just reset. Yeah. And then he switched his focus to working on this passion project that he has called People of Soul. And he works on what he calls the problem of futurelessness. And he's basically a messenger of hope and trying to inspire people that like we can build a better future and we can have the future that we want. And there's valuable things we can do towards that. And so he spent a lot of time writing poetry, designing characters. He has a whole kind of world that he's built with these different tribes of people and kind of like a whole backstory. And it's a very fascinating, multifaceted project that has, writing and symbolism and poetry and like a whole website that goes with it and a community. So that's an example of our first programming retreat that we held in August. He came to work on that project.
So in that case, the entire property was for one person only?
No. He's just one. So we had like 10 guests. Oh. They're all doing different things, but they're all independent.
Oh, okay.
So we had game developers that were working on their game. We had people who were learning to program and were working on just learning new skills, learning new programming languages. Okay. People doing their side project. I mean, the basic theme is like you come and work on your side project.
Yeah.
And we did have a few people that were working together on the same game. These were like game developers. But the idea is most people had their own side project that they were working.
It remembers me of like a similar center that I've heard of a few times, the Recurse Center in New York.
I've heard of it. Yeah, I've been there actually.
Oh, really?
So I did a retreat with Recurse Center in 2017. And of course, I really liked it. And so now I'm providing another option to do that. Very similar type program in a very different setting.
Different setting, yeah.
Recurse Center, if people don't know, it's based in Brooklyn. It's in a very urban environment. And the Focus Retreat Center is very much in a rural environment, very much more like a natural setting.
So if I land in New York, some airport, how long will it take me to get to there?
It's about 6 hours north of New York City. So it's a quite long drive, but it's within 1 day. So you can drive there in 1 day. There's a train from New York City to Burlington, Vermont. You can get there by train. And there's also a daily bus from Port Authority Bus Terminal in New York City that goes right into Malone. Which is the town where Focus Retreat Center is.
So I noticed, like looking at the profile on the website, that you've been a musician as well for a long time.
Yeah. So my whole first passion was music. I've been playing the saxophone and jazz and classical music since I was 10 years old. And that was my first intention as a career, was I wanted to be a professional musician. And so from 6th grade all the way through high school, every summer I went to music camp, sleepaway music camp in New York State. And it was set on a college campus, which was very cool for me, for an adolescent to get access to their own bedroom and on a college campus and going to the dining hall. It just felt really fun. But I really, really liked that. And I went 6 years in a row. And by the last time I was spending 6 weeks there, which is a long time for an adolescent. And so that was very formative to me. I have my best friend is someone I met there. That's still my best friend that's 30 years later. And I just made lots of friends and I was able to get exposed to lots of music. And typically anything that I learned and was exposed to that summer, that would set the theme for the whole next year of my own development and practice. And that's one of the main inspirations for doing focus retreats.
Is there, do you think, a relationship between programming and music? Because this is a recurring thing.
Yeah.
So what do you think it is?
It's all, I mean, it's the same kinds of brain. It's patterns, it's repetition, it's structures. And so the overlap of people who like computer programming and music is extremely strong. It's very, very common. You can see that strange loop, you know.
Yeah.
There's always 2 or 3 talks about music. And then when you ask, tons of people play instruments, tons of people are interested in music. So I think it appeals to the same kind of brains, and it has the same, that same kind of zone that you get into building something, and there's creativity, but there's structure and there's rules, and there's, you know, rules that can be broken. So all these things are really fun to work with, and it's very common for people to like programming and music.
Yeah, true. So is there anything that we missed that you want to touch on that we didn't talk about?
I think that's the main points. We're just excited. We're just finishing up our first season. It's a seasonal climate, so we're open like spring, summer, fall, closed down. The winters are very, very cold. So we're excited. We're excited for next year, and I just want folks to know that if they want to have that kind of id-like environment that John Romero talked about in his keynote yesterday, where a small team got together and just worked closely day after day after day to really build something exciting, that's the kind of environment that we provide. And so think about next summer, if you could work on your own project and have that kind of super exciting, super high productivity environment where you're really focused on doing that creative work, what would you do? Now, do you have a project that you want to work on? Do you have a little startup that you want to do? Do you have a team that wants to do the MVP of something or do the 2.0 version? I just want to plant that seed for folks to start thinking about that.
So do you have pizza delivery? Like thinking about...
Oh, yeah. Well, we have better. We have in-house chef who cooks home-cooked meals. So usually one night a week is pizza night. It's home-cooked pizza. There's fresh baked bread every day. There's baked goods of all kinds. So yeah, we can do better than delivery pizza. This is not like a tech meetup. Okay. This is home-cooked meals, fresh vegetables. Like my partner Stella runs the kitchen and she goes to the farmer's market. All the meal planning is based on seasonal, what's fresh, what we can get locally. We have very short supply chains. Our plumber comes and drops off fresh eggs every week from his chickens. So it's very like farm to table setup. It's very much not, we order pizza.
Fantastic. All right, thank you very much for describing this like very interesting retreat that you have. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks for your time and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.